Hello! Today's stories come from r/PettyRevenge. Today is another special event, a series of 5 stories detailing the zany antics of Bucket Lady, or is it Bouquet Lady? This story was a repost from r/neighbors from hell to r/PettyRevenge, and it delivers in every way. It starts with neighborhood dispute started over grass and bins, ends with her tenants leaving. My kids and I moved house in March, day 2 in my new house, and I tripped over a broken paver. Didn't break anything, but I still needed surgery, a 3-night hospital stay, and a full leg brace for 2 weeks. While I was in hospital, my partner, formerly ex partner, now reconciled, it's complicated, Martin, dad, sister, bestie, and her wife had formed an emergency team. They kept my kids and pets safe and fed and finished the unpacking. Dad and Martin did a little garden work, removing the broken paver and laying some old fence posts along the fence where next door's dog was digging through. Week 1, I hobbled to the litter box and met next door's landlord, who my partner has nicknamed the Bucket Woman. She immediately told me to bring my bins in by 9 a.m. because it made the street look messy. She demanded I move the posts because the grass would grow through to her side. I explained the reason for the posts and said that once the holes were filled in, let me know and I would move them. And hello to you too. Week 1, bin day, 9:10 a.m. The Bucket Woman banged on my door. I'm still in PJs and a leg brace. She complained about the bins. I said my bestie is coming by later to help me dress. I couldn't do feet. I'd bring the bins later. When Bestie pulled up, she had to park out front because my bins were in the driveway. I checked. The council bylaws don't have a deadline for bringing bins in. Next, Martin got temporary approval to work from home at my place. I got home and Martin was escorting the Bucket Woman off the property. The Bucket Woman thought nobody was home and tried to sneak in to move the posts. Martin said next time he calls the police. A few weeks ago, the police arrived. Martin was at work and said a concerned neighbor called about a man and woman having a domestic dispute, and the man was destroying the fence. The Bucket Woman is out front, watching. Once they're satisfied I'm okay and there's no damage, I explain about last week and show them security footage. Later, I see them speaking with the Bucket Woman. She isn't happy and she goes inside. I was working nights and the police visit had taken up a lot of my precious sleeping time. I was fuming. Then the penny dropped. The Bucket Woman just let herself in while the tenants were at work. So I spoke to the tenants and I was blunt. I asked if they were okay with the Bucket Woman being in the house while they were out, and said I'd seen her there at least once a week. In a nutshell, they were not okay with that. Later, one of the guys came around with a box of Chalkies, thanked me, and said they were moving out right away. The Bucket Woman was furious at me. She says I made her tenants leave and got her in trouble with the rental agents too. She told me I made the street look messy and hang underwear on the washing line, so how will she get new tenants? I wanted so badly to tell her to get off my lawn. Update: I just got off the phone from the council. Someone has complained I removed a protected tree from my property. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this. Update 2. Spoke to the council again. The complaint is definitely that the tree was removed. The tree is definitely still there and visible from the street. Council are sending someone to inspect the tree. Martin and I will be there, armed with reports and photographs. I did my bit for democracy, and the nice neighbors from the other side were in the queue to vote ahead of me. They took their own photos of the storm damage to the tree, and oh my gosh, it was way scarier from their side of the fence. I've added their photos to the file. Next door don't have any problems with the Bucket Woman trespassing, but he's retired and she works from home. The bloke hates her guts and is happy to keep an eye on our backyard when we are out. Let's jump straight into some comments where we'll find some humor and additional details from OP before moving on to the second part. Copsalau said, "Oh dear, no. You hang your underwear up on the washing line to dry? I was on your side until that part. You're literally hit now. How will anyone on that entire street ever get a tenant again?" OP replied, "I know. I am a monster. Seriously, my washing line is lower than the height of the fence, so the only way she would see what I'm hanging there is if she was looking over it. Oddly, I can see her washing line because it's higher than the top of the fence." Copsalau replied, "Oh my God, this woman is ridiculous. As sorry as I am that this was what you have to deal with next door, I really appreciate the funny stories." OP replied, "I think if I didn't turn her into a joke, I'd find her way more irritating and stressful." She point blank asked my partner if I am pregnant. He told her I was sensitive about my COVID kilos. By the way, I am pregnant and I checked the council website. I don't need a permit to construct a new human. Oceanside said, "You should have her arrested if she steps on your lawn again." OP replied, "She's had her one warning. Hopefully, she's learned we don't stuff around." She seems to be confining herself now to bailing us up in the street and asking nosy questions. Oceanside asked, "Not sure what bailing is, but I tell her nothing is her business." OP added, "Bailing someone up is when you accost someone and detain them in a conversation. Often implies that the escape route is cut off in the process, such as by backing someone into a corner. It used to mean being held up and robbed at gunpoint by bushrangers, but this meaning has fallen out of use. We take great delight in frustrating her questions." The second entry to the saga is Bucket Woman versus My Dangerous Dog. The Petty Revenge continues. So, the Bucket Woman has not learned her lesson. First thing we did was add more security cameras, so now most of the property is covered. And we were shocked to see how often she was coming onto our property and looking through our windows. I felt sick to my stomach. The reason she knows what's on my washing line is because she's coming into our yard and checking. Not going to lie, I had a bad period where I just blamed myself for bringing everyone else in the household into this. We spoke to the kids, and they find her annoying, but not creepy, if that makes sense. We're checking in regularly with how they're coping. Martin hand-delivered a letter to the Bucket Woman, telling her she is not allowed onto our property. Any communication about neighborhood issues should be directed to my solicitor, card attached to the letter. Since then, Martin has diligently checked the security footage and reported every instance of trespass on the police non-emergency line. A few days later, we had a visit from the police. The Bucket Woman rang 000 and said I had a dangerous dog which attacked her. She claimed she was injured getting away from the dog attack. The police checked our house and yard and didn't find a dangerous dog. They did find 2 house cats, a house rabbit, and the disemboweled corpse of a catnip mouse, which was not taken for forensic examination. Martin pulled the security footage. I've been asked not to describe it in detail, but I can't decide what was funnier, the footage itself or the sight of the police officer trying to keep a straight face. Also, if you do plan to trespass on your neighbor's property and you startle easily, say at an angry indoor cat, it's always quicker to run through an open gate than a closed one. Petty revenge component. I remain a free woman. Little Cat is not declared a dangerous dog and gets her favorite tuna treat. Lots of head pats and a new catnip mouse. Martin gleefully adds another report of trespass, and Bucket Woman looks like an idiot. Our next step was to replace the old side gate with something more secure. That led to more escalation from her side and more petty revenge on ours. But cutting off her access to the backyard still hasn't stopped the Bucket Woman. We still find her in the front yard, looking through our windows, including mine and Martin's bedroom window. Our front yard is a quagmire when it rains, so we regularly find her tracks. Martin has taken to spite cleaning the garage every time he sees her tracks. The fence posts lying along the shared fence have turned into our hard waste pile. Every time he catches her trespassing, he adds a bit more junk to the pile. It's probably driving her crazy, but there's nothing she can do. Thank you to u/permaband007 for suggesting window clings. And thank you to everyone who suggested putting something interesting in the window for the Bucket Woman to look at. I found some simple and elegant window clings that are beautiful to look at and should frustrate the Bucket Woman at the same time. We've picked our favorite design, and next step is Martin will measure up the windows and order the custom sizes. We figure eye level for him should defeat the Bucket Woman even if she stands on tippy toes. Revenge that is both petty and elegant. I like it. But I still think I will order some replica Huntsman spiders, just in case. Update. Martin went shopping on the way home, and he's brought home a motion-activated water sprayer and a couple of rubber snakes. This may just be the most romantic present I've ever received. Tomorrow, he installs the sprayer and measures up for the window clings. My brother doesn't want me to tell you all what a kind and generous person he's being, but right now I am sorry for trying to feed him to a monster when I was 4 years old. If you are reading this, I am really glad that monster in the wardrobe didn't eat you. Seriously? Who is this woman? I'd be so miffed if someone was invading my personal space and privacy despite repeated requests to stop. Creepy or not, something is off. The comments had some prophetic advice. Northern Redneck said, "When are you going to file harassment or trespass charges against her? She needs mental help." OP replied, "Let's just say that I am paying good money for good advice and do not want to advertise what I could do next." But yes, I agree with you about possible mental health issues, and I've shared my concerns with the police. Starry Vash added, "You should compost under the windows in preparation for some landscaping. Let her stand in crap." OP replied, "The irony is, I had money set aside to have the garden professionally landscaped, but that is now being used to pay for the good advice about dealing with her." Insta R Man said, "Motion activated sprinklers for the front yard might make her rethink stepping foot on your property. Shouldn't affect the yard more than a light rain does." Mother College replied, "I was just going to suggest this. And make sure it's all on camera to share with your fellow Redditors." Emily One said, "But are you still hanging underwear on your clothesline? I do hope you go all out at Halloween and have some stuff that is motion activated." OP replied, "Still hanging my Reg Grundies undies on the clothesline, taking advantage of the free sunshine when it happens." We don't really celebrate Halloween, but I desperately want one of those annoying pop-up gnomes that were being advertised a while back that you can program to play a message. Emily One added, "You're an Aussie. There are so many ways to get her." OP replied, "One of my sisters suggested I find a rubber tiger snake and leave it in the garden bed by the bedroom window. My brother suggested I may need a new doormat." Our third story was an interlude before we get to the results of the motion activated sprinklers. It reads, "Bucket Woman versus my scraps bucket." This is why we had motion activated lights installed. I meant to share this one a while ago, but I got sick for a few weeks and didn't have the energy. After the vicious dog attack, our old side gate started to wobble alarmingly, almost like someone ran into it, full tilt, while escaping an angry house cat. We reluctantly decided to demolish it, knowing that would leave us more open to Bucket Woman visits. But since the new gate was due to be installed later that week, we reasoned nothing that bad could happen. This is also the story of how wrong we were. Martin demolished the old gate on Sunday afternoon, neatly stacking the remains along the side of the garage near the bins. Later that night, about 11 p.m., I took my bucket of kitchen scraps out to the green bin. I didn't bother turning on the light because I was intending a quick trip out and in, and there was enough available light. It's the middle of winter and close to freezing, and I wasn't planning to stay out there very long. I waddle out into the dark wearing my dressing gown and slippers. I just reached the bins when I heard a noise in the yard behind me. I called out, "Who's there?" No answer. I call out again, "Who's there?" This time, a shapeless figure silently came towards me. I hurled the scraps bucket at it. The figure screamed, so I screamed louder. Since my brother wasn't available, I grabbed one of the bins and tried to use it as a shield, but I tripped and fell over the old gate. Then the lights came on and everyone flooded outside. I was sat on my butt looking up at the bucket woman, now wearing my kitchen scraps, babbling and waving some papers. Disclaimer, I didn't score a direct hit with the bucket. The contents just splashed her. Martin grabbed a cricket bat and growled at her in a voice that would have frozen Hades. "Get out! Now!" The bucket woman tossed her papers in the air and fled, shedding potato and onion skins as she ran. Okay, my irrational brain insists on replaying it like that, even though I know I only splashed her. My daughter rang 000, the neighbors rang, and so did the bucket woman. She said she'd come to serve legal documents on me and I'd assaulted her. The police took the papers away but left the scraps. So I limped away from this encounter slightly wounded but still a free woman, and triumphant. When I am old and in a nursing home, the memory of the bucket woman with my leftovers globbed on her legs will still make me smile. But wait, there's more. Sunday afternoon, Martin looked out the window at the remains of the old gate, and I could see an idea forming. Then he disappeared. I next saw him humping the old gate across the backyard and neatly piling the remains up against the shared fence, on top of the old fence posts. He came back in and said he'd moved the hard waste pile because it really is an eyesore for the rest of the street, and the bucket woman doesn't like it when we make the street look messy. The words hoist and petard spring to mind. Edit. It's not exactly petty revenge yet, but if anyone wants to read about how it takes a village to install a motion-activated sprinkler, it's on my profile. You guys may have started a local cult. I can't wait to get to the sprinkler bit, so let's hit up the comments. Sweet Interview said, "Wish I had awards to give you. Also, love the sprinklers installation and dog attack. I can picture it all as it happens. Please keep us up to date, as with these episodes, it's better than TV." OP replied, "Little cat was very miffed that she was mistaken for a dog, let me tell you. Honestly, awards are accepted gratefully, but are not needed. I think part of my petty revenge is making this woman a figure of ridicule, and just seeing others laughing with me is enough. I also think I would find her a lot more stressful if I didn't have this outlet. Arjak said, no one serves legal papers in the dark at night. And if in the US, you need to be a process server or a lawyer. OP replied, here you can personally serve documents, but yes, it is unreasonable to serve documents by hanging out in someone's backyard in the dark and hoping they come outside, especially when we've already given her notice that she is not allowed on the property and that she needs to communicate through our solicitor. Also, spoiler alert, they weren't legal documents. Edited. And just because I am a spectacularly petty person, I just checked the court rules for my state and she did not properly serve the documents anyway. Vampire Girl 99 asked, what did the papers turn out to be? OP replied, handwritten notes. There wasn't a file number or anything that would identify a particular case. I won't share the contents because, hypothetically speaking, if someone were to seek some kind of order against her, those papers could become relevant to the making of that order, if that makes sense. The Fighting Quaker had this to say, what is happening to this woman during interactions with the police? It seems like you've been more than reasonable, and she probably should have been arrested after trespassing again since you warned her. OP replied, it's really complicated. She's annoying and persistent, but her behavior isn't something we can do much about at the moment. All we can do is try to frustrate her as much as possible and be ready to act when the behavior reaches certain thresholds. And now this is where things take a turn. The whole neighborhood seems to be done with a bucket lady, and the fun begins. It takes a village to install a motion-activated sprinkler. The kids were all off doing their own thing, mostly involving mud and or a football. Martin and I had brekkie, which included a liberal helping of YouTube videos of motion-activated sprinklers. Then Martin headed out to install our motion-activated sprinkler. After about 10 minutes, Martin stuck his head around the door and said he'd invited his friend Andy around to help test it. I'm decent, so that's all good. Andy pulls up and the pair of them start playing with the sprinkler, scientifically testing it for the optimal settings. Next time I look up from my reading, Terry, from across the road, has joined them. Judging by the hand gestures and laughter, they're telling Terry about the sprinkler. This is when I decide to go for a short walk. Exercise helps me think, and I have a nasty HR issue to resolve on Monday, I hope. When I get back, Sam has joined the group. Martin, Andy, and Terry look like they've been showing Sam how the new sprinkler works. All four of them wave to me, and I head inside. Martin follows me and says they're going to Bunnings. He thinks they've worked out how to place a second sprinkler so it blasts anyone looking into the front window, but people can still reach the front door if they stick to the paths. Martin and Andy get in the car and drive off. Terry and Sam go home. Eventually, the car backs into the driveway, and Martin opens the boot. There are 2 robo-sprinklers, plus some extra hose, and some other stuff I can't identify. Andy puts one in the boot of his car and then comes back to help Martin install our second sprinkler. Terry and Sam also came back, and all 4 of them played with it a bit, scientifically adjust the settings so that legitimate visitors can approach the house without a squirting, but window peepers will get hit. In theory, the bucket woman could defeat the sprinklers by just turning the garden tap off. But she looks to be in her 60s and is built like the original, so we don't think she has the ninja skills to reach it. Martin, who was about 20 years younger than her, tried it and gave up, possibly due to excessive laughter after someone called out, "The bouquet residence, the lady of the house speaking," from the bedroom window. Andy, who was about 25 years younger than her, could do it, but discovered there is a very small margin of error before Darth Sprinkler activates. So, we might have lost the element of surprise. Most of me doesn't mind if the bucket woman has seen the sprinklers of doom being demonstrated, if it makes her stay away from the damn windows. But part of me would like the smug satisfaction of hearing a shriek and the sound of Darth Sprinkler going off in the night. Nothing like a petty revenge project to bring people together. I do love the rigor and attention to detail as it relates to the settings, though. I'm surprised they haven't added some form of lighting to draw further attention to Bucket Lady, though I'm not sure the embarrassment would really faze her. On to the comments where OP explains the origin story of the Bucket Lady name. Rogue Femme said, I love how spiting Bucket Woman became a neighborhood project. OP replied, they all have their stories to tell, but to be honest, Terry has an amazing veggie garden, so he might be more worried about possums. I Feel Numb added, I can attest to their efficacy against wildlife. Nothing likes an unexpected face full of water. Eddie Lou said, thank you so much for the keeping up appearances reference, as that is all I can think of reading these stories. Ha! OP replied, you can blame my partner for them. Early on, he said it was like living next door to Hyacinth Bucket, pronounced bouquet, and ever since then, she's been the bucket woman to us. Bangerang PETA said, this American had been wondering why you had been calling her the bucket woman and figured it was just a UK joke I wasn't in on. But I roared with laughter when I saw bouquet residents here, and it clicked. OP replied, my partner is originally from the UK. He said one day that it was like living next door to the Hyacinth Bucket, and from then on, she became the bucket woman to us. Witty Cucumber said, I read up on your saga just now and had coffee come out of my nose from laughing. Do not recommend. I truly hope you find some peace from that old bat sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, your writing style is a very welcome source of entertainment. I wish you all the energy you need to deal with this. OP replied, can I say I am delighted and sorry to have made a witty cucumber do the coffee whale. They do hurt, I know. I've done the soup whale myself. I hope I find some peace from her too, but in the meantime, turning her into a figure of fun helps keep me going. And now for the last installment, it finally happened. Bullseye. Bucket Woman versus Robo-sprinkler. The Bucket Woman was actually the sprinkler's second victim. The first was Max, short for Gluteus maximus, the neighbor's cat, who has his morning pee on my rosemary plant. Max strolled across the sensor and Robo-sprinkler 2 activated. He got the shock of his life when that morning the garden peed back. He ran back to his own yard like he'd been fired out of a cat cannon. Robo-sprinkler 1 fired on the Bucket Woman on Tuesday afternoon. Martin was working from home, but at the back of the house, and only knew something happened when the fluffy couch potato cat let out an unearthly howl and tried to hide between Martin and the chair he was sitting on. He got to the front room just in time to see the Bucket Woman disappearing behind the fence. So he went to check the security footage. I got a text asking if I wanted the good news or the bad news first. I was having a bad day, so I opted for the good news. I got 2 words back. Got her. Then I asked for the bad news and he texted, sorry about your rosemary. Oh, I only have 2 plants in the front garden that I really care about, and that rosemary is one of them. It's flowered nearly all winter, and I like watching the bees. When I got home, there was a group of people outside our house. I started to worry, thinking something terrible had happened. But I realized they were sprinkler devotees, and in the middle was my partner, performing the dance of his people. This account has been pieced together from looking at track marks and observing the triumphant dance of the sprinkler people. It seems that the Bucket Woman entered through the gate and headed towards the bedroom window, crossing Robo-sprinkler 1's sensor. Robo-sprinkler 1 fired on the intruder and scored a direct hit before starting on its arc. The Bucket Woman was startled and ran back towards the gate, but Robo-sprinkler had started its return and hit her a second time. She was startled again, denoted by some high leaps and exaggerated shrieking in the dance. Changed direction, ran past the gate, and body slammed my poor defenseless plant before finding the gate and running back next door. The triumphant dance makes no mention of bees, but I picture a bunch of worker bees turning up to work at the rosemary plant following day and going, bloody hell, what happened here? The interesting thing is that the robo-sprinklers seem to have had a deterrent effect. This happened on Tuesday. Today is Monday, and she hasn't visited since. We see her on the cameras pacing up and down out the front, but she's staying out of our garden and away from the windows. Martin came down with man flu on Wednesday, and a close family friend died on Thursday, so this has been a welcome respite. Nor have we been visited by authorities, following up allegations I am keeping unlicensed bees or that my fluffy couch potato is really the hound of the Baskervilles. It's as if a couple of squirts of cold water have shocked some reality into her. Although, to be fair, I don't know how long it takes the Department of Ag to follow up reports of unlicensed apiary, and I'm not even sure which agency regulates hounds of the Baskervilles. That may be still to come. And to think, all it took was a little cold water. Let's head straight to the comments where OP answers some more questions with her ever-present Aussie wit. Evil Sloth of Doom said, you are the neighbor master. Through the church of the Holy Sprinkler you have gathered the flock. All hail neighbor master. OP replied, this is where I feel compelled to say something like, he's not the Messiah. He's a naughty boy. Someone else said, thanks for the update. Nothing like a dousing of cold water to drive off the lunatics. OP replied, next step is to replace the front fence with something more secure before the weather warms up too much. Julian Radish added, what's the max height of fence you're allowed? You could consider a privacy fence, 6 or 8 foot tall. OP replied, for a front fence, it's 1.5 meters without needing a permit. Yes, Ms. Pettypants over here has checked. I am considering backing it up with some assertive planting. My new favorite plant is something called spiny-headed mat rush. Coder Joe 1 suggested, "Start greeting your neighbor when you see her. Hello, Squirt." OP replied, "Alas, she seems to be avoiding me lately." If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.